You know, the Bible says that they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. I'd like to share a testimony with you. It's going to sound incredible. It's going to sound like, how can that happen? But I was literally, when I was released from the Navy, my sister Debbie was living in New Mexico. Now, she was going to be flying up to Anchorage, Alaska, and she asked me if I could drive her 1973 Maverick up to Anchorage, Alaska. I agreed with it. I was only 19 years old. So I took her, I flew to New Mexico. I got her Maverick, and I began to drive up towards Alaska. I got onto the Alaskan Freeway, and as I was driving up the Alaskan Freeway, there was heavy rain because it was midsummer, but there was heavy flooding, and bridges got washed out everywhere on the Alcan Freeway. Well, it got to where I couldn't go no further, and so I turned around, and I thought, well, the only thing I can do is go back to Wisconsin and leave the car there. There was nothing else I could do. So I'm coming out of the mountains. I went of Canada, and I just began to worship God. Just simply worshiping God, praising God, talking to the Lord. And I just began to go deeper and deeper into worship and praise. And I began to enter into another realm. Now, I know this sounds incredible, but this really happened because Lars go to hell. It got so heavy in the car. The presence of God got so real that I began to become beside myself. I began to lose track of where I was at, what I was doing. My car began to be filled with a mist, a fog. I didn't know it was the Shekinah glory at the time. And it got so heavy, I got so caught up in worship that before I knew what I was doing, my hands came off of the steering wheel. Now, I don't even know what's going on. I'm telling you, I'm lost. I'm in the heavens. My hands are off the steering wheel. I am worshiping God. I am praising God. I am weeping. I am crying. I'm completely enveloped by the presence of God. I can't even see out the front of my windshield. My car's so full of the glory. And when this began to happen to me, it was in the afternoon. The sun was about in the middle of the horizon. And I'm like this. And it didn't seem like it was long, and yet it seemed like it was forever. Well, after a while, my hands just naturally came down from worshiping and came upon the steering wheel. And after my hands come upon the steering wheel, then all of a sudden the fog began to dissipate, and here I'm driving on this road. Now, I don't even know what road I'm on. I don't even know where I'm at, but I noticed that the sun was setting. I mean, I took my hands off of the steering wheel under the glory of God. And don't you do this without the glory of God. I took my hands off the steering wheel under the glory of God. And now my hands are back on the steering wheel, and the sun is setting. Somebody drove my car for, I would think, probably anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. I don't know how long it was. I didn't look at my watch when I was driving. I was just driving to go back to Wisconsin, and I had gone hundreds of miles. Now, I didn't even look at my mileage gauge, so I don't know how many miles that I drove, but I tell you what, I was in a part of Canada where you could drive for hours and hours and not see nobody, and so somebody drove my car for hours on end without my hand being on the steering wheel. You'd have to have been there to believe it. I know this sounds incredible, but it really, truly happened.